Hello, hello. Welcome back to another episode of The World Can Wait. We're excited to be here and kick off this conversation. I feel like I guess it is kind of a long time coming because it's been a year. So tonight we are going to talk about COVID, what life has been like in the middle of this pandemic, dealing with COVID, just wanting to share our personal experiences, what we think about the whole thing, and just kind of how we move forward. But we thought it was a great time to have this conversation because, like I said, we're coming up. I think today we're at the year mark basically.
Almost
Okay, almost at the year mark
officially.
of quarantining when the pandemic hit the United States, and we feel like it's a good time to kind of just sit and talk about it and think about where we were a year ago, where we are now, share our experiences, what it's been like living with COVID, how our lives have changed, how our social lives have changed, how work has changed, how it's affected us in general. So, got some guests here tonight who are going to be able to share their stories and experiences, and we're just going to chop it up for a little while. So, again, thank you for everyone out here that's hanging out with us for the time. I'm gonna kick it over to Charles. We're gonna pray and get this thing started.
Word, yeah. Real quick before I do open us in prayer, if you haven't already, go ahead and like this video, share it so that as many people as possible can join in on the conversation. Jesus, we just thank you for this opportunity to have valuable conversation. We know that this is it that many people have many different feelings on, and as we share ours, I just pray that we unfiltered without fear of repercussion, worrying about how other people are going to feel about our feelings, and just share how we feel, and that it would help people understand the perspectives that they don't share. We pray, amen.
And amen. Okay, so kicking this off, let's just start from the top basically. So we want to hear from you guys where you were and what was it like when everything kind of changed. Like that first day when you remember we started quarantining, jobs started shutting down, schools started closing. What was it like for you when all that happened? Jesse, why don't you start us off if you don't?
Sure. So I guess for my family, we kind of started jumping into quarantining before it really hit Virginia. My family are all high risk. I'm high risk. And when we got the news about the virus that it was already here, we were like, okay, we're going to take this seriously. We started like wiping down our groceries before we even went into shutdown and everything. But I do remember the day that I was at work and I worked at a school, and we saw that schools were starting to close. And I remember all of us like wandering around wondering like, are we going to close? Because the school I used to work at is a private school, so we didn't follow the public schools always. And then we went home that weekend, and I believe it was actually that weekend we got the message saying like, hey, schools are closed, Virginia's going into shutdown. So I kind of expected it to happen, so it wasn't really that much of a shock. And my family, we were already basically engaging in quarantine behaviors anyways.
Yeah, and it's kind of similar for me. I mean, as far as the kind of closing down, but it was weird. It actually kind of made me happy because I was in a position where I was a stay-at-home dad for like time of my life, and being a stay-at-home parent is harder than any job to get. It's amazing.
Yeah.
So I was like, hey, my baby's gonna be home, kids now, hope everything's gonna be okay. But the kind of gravity of what was actually happening didn't really at that point.
Yeah, when it like all like got serious, I remember everyone kind of talking like, oh, it'll be 2 weeks, and
Yeah.
my family, we were well aware that it was going to be a lot longer than 2 weeks, so we were kind of trying to get mentally prepared. Now, did I think it was going to be an entire year and we're in a worse place than like ever? No, but I was kind of prepared for it to be months.
Damien, how about you?
Um, It was pretty much the same, like you guys said, where it was this time last year. I remember um, we seen like news reports about it, and it was like growing concern. And then my daughter's school had sent home like a letter for the parents where they were contemplating shutting down, and they were just gonna see what like the state said. And then I remember that the same day that my daughter's school shut down, my wife's job shut down. So it was like you said, where it was like, okay, so everybody's gonna be home, and in like homeschooling, remote schooling with like Chromebooks and whatever. My wife could work remotely, but at that time, the only concern that we really had was I was driving for Lyft and Uber. So then it was like, okay, so how's that gonna work? Because with like, you know, like everything being infectious and everything and everybody staying away and social distancing, my wife was concerned where she was like, I don't want you picking up passengers all day and running the risk or whatnot. So we looked into that, and thankfully like unemployment's like recognized like gig workers. So they started giving like payments to them. So like I got by with that for a little bit, and then just found like a warehouse job where it was needed to get by.
Remember, so around this time, we're near enough on my wife was trying was on about to be packed out and wouldn't let her reservation. Have to struggle everywhere. Does everybody know that I last week
Wow.
long weekend? Interesting. Like she a lot more classes because we have like this coronavirus. Like talking about like and as soon as she told so not to be funny. And so that happened. Birthday, church that week. And we're just figure this all happening. Church, work, everywhere that I look. I don't know what to tell you other than we're gonna figure this thing out together. For me, it was I guess a lot different than y'all, where my job didn't shut down. It didn't stop like temporary. Like it was, we kept running, and it was interesting. Different measures put in place by different businesses. Because I was a truck driver, so I'm driving all over North and South Carolina, and you know sometimes into Virginia and Georgia, and in one state, how different things were. Like even in the same city, you know, I felt like there should be a more like streamlined response to this. We should all be on the same page with this. Um, and I don't know who to blame or not blame or whatever, or maybe I do and don't feel like blaming anybody. But I just felt like the response to this isn't what it should be. Like I was telling somebody the other day where I lived around, like on both sides, every way you go around the corner, One side there's a Food Lion, one side there's a Walmart. They're both about 5-10 minutes away. And I go to the Food Lion, masks are not required. Go to Walmart, masks are required. I remember I traveled from Carolina to Virginia, and I remember like I'm halfway there, and my brother's like, "Hey, you got a mask with you, right? Because you got to have a mask in Virginia." At that time, North Carolina and South Carolina weren't enforcing masks, so it was like, "No, I don't have a mask. I just didn't think about it." So it was the biggest thing for me and learn from how many things weren't considered in the response to the pandemic. Like that's what really tripped me out.
Yeah.
Man, like nobody plans for anything around here. Like we just getting hit with it, and so it was it was interesting to see. It really was. Um, what was the biggest change that you saw, whether at work or at home? How did your life change? It was dramatic. Like me, I guess it would have to be like my wife and I were in church every weekend. So she was in the choir. I served in the kids ministry, and we're there Saturday and then all day Sunday. And then so be able to have my weekends back was like the most refreshing thing in the world. It was weird though, but it was still refreshing because I don't gotta wake up at like 7 o'clock to get to church. I don't gotta go to sleep extra early to wake up and go to church. I don't gotta like I get my days off. Um, I think that was probably the biggest change for me. Like everything else, for the most part, for me, stayed the same. Nothing changed. Work. Wife was already staying at home, with kids, so didn't have anything there. It was just a matter of recognizing how many people felt. I'm trying to figure out how to word it. One of the things that I saw is, prior to COVID being like real big, there was this real big movement and conversations of race and racism, obeying the law and things like that. And then with the mask mandates, it was like I'm not obeying the law anymore. And so it's like those were like the two biggest things for me is like trying to process that. Like, how do you go from obeying the law, feel like it, to not? And then how do I go from doing something every weekend, all weekend, to like nothing to do on the week? That was the biggest thing for me. What about you guys?
I think for me, well, first, like, I switched to virtual schooling, which ended up being almost more stressful than when I was working like in the physical building because I had a lot of added responsibilities. But I lost like my outlets with hobbies. Like I used to do aerial silks, and obviously that got shut down, and it ended up having to shut permanently. So it's not something I'll even be able to go back to. I used to go to the gym 5 days a week, and I couldn't do that anymore. And then there was just the frustration and like fear of going through this pandemic because at that time there was absolutely really no response. States were just kind of making up as they go along. I had to watch, it was like being in a group project and you're the only one doing any of the work. You're like wearing your mask and being safe and socially distancing. And then I'd see people still going out and drinking and like saying, I refuse to wear a mask because that's a violation of my rights. And so this pandemic, like, especially coming now in the 1 year anniversary of really being quarantined in my home, like I do nothing to keep my family alive. It's taken a huge toll on my mental health. Like it sucks.
Yeah, I bet. Kind of some all my outlet. Like I had like this newfound free time. I had up with the kids, but at the same time, it was almost like I lost so many things. We had just recently up back to fresh. I didn't know anyone, wasn't working, diagnosed with um I was with the kids all the time. I had no friends outlets, and when I started to like find groups to go to, um I had to shut my whole rap career down basically because there was no shows. So like where I was at back in Lynchburg, like I was things were taking off to where I was recognized around the city. I had a lot going on all the time. Fredericksburg. It's like, okay, I got to start this whole thing over, and then instantly it's just like gone. And it's like, man, like what do I do? What can I do? High risk. I can't go anywhere even when I start opening back up. Like so it was definitely a huge like health toll that it took.
And I don't know about you, but I don't know if you remember the first 2 weeks where everyone was kind of just like, it's just a kind of a vacation. And everyone was still like, oh, we're just hanging out at home for a bit. And then that quickly went away.
Yeah. Yeah, I feel like that was the big like consensus. We were just like, let's do this little thing real quick, everyone chill out, nobody gets sick, and then the world goes back to how it was before.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously, here we are a year later. That didn't happen. Damien, what about you? What was the biggest change for you?
Well, like I said, like my wife was home, my daughter was home, my son was home. So I'd been driving part time, and then I was the stay at home dad. While my wife would work, I would take care of the house. And to go from being used to my wife leaving out and going to work in the morning, and my daughter being at school, and just having like that free time during the day where like I had like a rhythm where I would just take care of the house, like where like I could do the dishes and clean the kitchen, then move here and move there and do this. And now there's people in my space. So so it's like, okay, after like you guys said, like after like a week or two, it's like, okay, you guys, can you like find something to do that doesn't involve me so I can take care of this? Because it was amazing to find out that that had become like like it had become part of like my mental health. Like I hit this rhythm, and it was part of my own universe where like now I have to share this, where it's almost like you're being pulled in these like however many directions. And now it's like, now I fight for time for myself, where it's not a matter of, okay, I have to check homework and make sure that she's logged into whatever class she's supposed to be logged into, and no one is like trying to tend to people calling me to like, oh, can you do this, and oh, can you do that, where it was my own schedule. So that was, I would say, the second biggest adjustment, other than like we suffered like a major family loss. So on top of everything, we all started dealing in our own ways with that. So to have that happen, and then not have like your own space, like to process things, it really threw everything for a loop. So like for a moment there, it was just like I felt like I was standing still and just confused as to, okay, what am I doing? What needs to be done, and how do I go forward?
I can definitely face like it's I cannot I couldn't stand to be by myself. Much as I love like having everyone home to help and us be together and all that. After like you said, like after about that second week, it was like, hold on, this is I have everything the way I want it to be. Why are you guys here messing it up?
Yeah.
And it's so weird because like you like now I'm like, if I get some own time, when can I go be by myself? And it's so crazy that pandemic, that because like I said, I needed like a long time. Couldn't stand to be by myself. Now I'm like, can I plug this into my? It's it's wild how it all changed.
Yeah.
I thought you was about to say something.
Nah, I was thinking, and I was like, nah, I'm not in the flow right now. I'm gonna save this for another point.
Okay. Well, we kind of touched. Well, Jesse kind of touched on health, which is the next place that we can take it. Because I'll say I feel like in 2020 I've heard more about mental health than I have in my entire life, and I want to say like in like years previous to that was starting to be more of a thing to talk about, but I feel like throughout 20 we're all going to talk about this, encourage each other, counselors. This is the thing that we need to talk about and deal with, and I feel wrong. So, do you have any kind of mental health experience with COVID that you could say, okay, COVID affected my
Josh, you want to go?
Yeah, I can start. So I've always suffered from anxiety, and being in a global pandemic did not help, clearly. You know, my family lives in New York City, so at the height of the pandemic, where, you know, shit hit the fan in New York City, I had a lot to deal with of worrying about my family potentially catching COVID and dying. So that was a lot to struggle with. And then just struggling with the thought of like, what if I catch it? What if my parents catch it? My brother, dealing with that. The fact that now I'm stuck in one place because, you know, all I do is go to the grocery store and come home. I don't have really any outlets. And especially as winter came along, you can't even go outside for a walk generally to get some fresh air to try to help. So it's been a real struggle. And I think a lot of people who have never really experienced any sort of anxiety, depression, really got hit with it suddenly during this. You know, people have lost loved ones. Some people have lost entire families. People are dealing with the anxiety and the worries, like I've lost my job, or what if I get COVID? What happens then? And it's great that people are more accepting and seem to be talking about mental health now, but it sucks that this is how it had to come about with all these people newly experiencing these things. At least I had the background of like, okay, I have suffered from anxiety for so long. I have some coping mechanisms that can help. Granted, some of them I obviously lost because I can't go anywhere. But a lot of people are experiencing that for the first time. And I really feel for them because that's got to be so hard to suddenly be dealing with this and being like, I've never felt like this before.
Me, I've always like loved movies, and pretty much anybody who knows me like knows I love movies. But I don't think I realized how much until I wasn't able to go to the movie theater anymore.
Oh.
And it's like once that was done, I was just like, okay, what do we do? And like you all said, you know, that first two, for me, it was probably a month before it started to really set in that okay, whatever normal was, we ain't seeing that ever again. We're not going back to normal. There's going to be a new normal, whatever that's going to look. And the way COVID impacted my mental health was by shutting everything down, opened the internet up more,
Mhm.
and I almost live on social media, and I love to engage with people, especially different perspectives. And one of the things that like really sucked was willing their perspective, not agree with or believe in, just right. And so that was like I feel like I'm somebody who's supposed to be having conversations for the purpose of sharing these experiences, and it's really difficult when doing something that you feel like you're supposed to do, and it's not reciprocated or received. And that's just one aspect. Then for me, it wasn't due to COVID. Like very best friend brother died, like, and it was just like, whoa, like, am I going to be able to take time off? Am I going to be able to travel? Like, I don't know am I even going to be able to go to the funeral? Like, how do I even process all of these different things? Because he's in another state. I don't know what Virginia has going on. Like, I'm here, and then as the pandemic keeps going on, so you got everything shut down. You're isolated from the people that you love and care about and want to spend time with. Friend, my best friend died. And then more time passes, and politics conversation started like ramping up. So you're dealing with more of that. And for me, it was like, as far as my mental, it was more just a compound thing. Like, just all of these things keep happening and keep adding up. And then in November, my family had Thanksgiving down in South Carolina, mom's house. And I remember like my church had just started opening back up. I was like, all right, cool. I wanna serve, right? Like that's what I'm into. I want to serve. I want to, especially because I'm in the kids department and I love those kids. I've built relationships with them over the last 3 years. They're expecting to see me. I'm expecting to see them. And then somebody in the family is like, hey, we feel like it's best because there's people that are high risk that anybody who's been around groups of people not come. And it like I didn't feel like it was directed at me because it wasn't. It was just caution, like as should be. And I was like that's when it hit me. It was like, okay, I have to be more considerate of other people in my actions, right? Because as a truck driver, especially what I was doing, like for a while I was driving at nights and then I was doing days, but I'm by myself most of every day. And so I don't really have too much to think about other people. I'm just it's just me and I'm just moving, doing my thing. Whereas now I'm seeing like, hey, yes, we want you here, but there's a good chance that you've been exposed to something by being around all these people and by seeing how many people don't care. That just increases my caution about having you there. So not being able to be with my family on Thanksgiving, that sucked. As much as like with families, like you love them and you hate them, and you like them and you don't like them, and it's like it's one thing if I would have chosen to not be there, but the fact that because we're in the middle of this pandemic and we can't trust people to do the right thing, that I'm not welcome at my parents' house for doing something that I also felt was right. And then just exacerbating the mental health issues that's already there. So with that isolation more, I had developed a system in the truck and by myself all day, but now when I'm out the truck, I'm home and I'm not by myself, but it's still that isolation mindset, right? And so how do I deal with that? And it was really interesting seeing that the way I deal with actual isolation in the truck and then that isolation mindset from COVID, how they have to be two different things, and then learning what that thing is, that was that was really unique for me. But I think ultimately, like the biggest thing that happened in that time frame, and I don't know how COVID affected his decision making or what it led, to him, but I know that in the time of COVID, I lost my very best friend. So when I think of COVID, that's what I think about. I think about that. I think about, you know, so many other people that died or that I said goodbye to that didn't die, but I just wasn't able to see because the last time I saw them was before everything shut down. And now I moved and I'll never see them again. You know what I mean? So it's a lot to have to process all of those feelings and emotions. And you're not even sure what they are all the time or where they're coming from or even why. Like a lot of stuff that I thought that I was over, being in that isolation mind led me back to, whoa, I thought I dealt with this. Apparently I didn't. So let's deal with it. It sucked. It sucks.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think a lot of people too, especially well, specifically people who have been taking this seriously, there's an added mental toll of watching other people not and knowing like maybe we could be in a much better spot. Maybe we could be New Zealand right now if everyone had just taken this seriously from the beginning. And that's a huge strain for people to know like I'm still taking this seriously. I'm still quarantining and there are still people who refuse to wear masks and refuse to go out or refuse to stay home. That's a big mental toll as well.
Yeah. Because like for me, 2020 was like, I guess you could say it was like a triple play of just mental health attacks, you might as well say, because like I suffer from depression and anxiety. So I've always been a person where I I focus on like trying to make sure like my mental health works well. Like my mom taught me back when I was a teenager, like, oh, sometimes you don't need to go to school or you don't go to work because you need a mental health day. You just gotta get yourself right. So like since then I've always been paying attention to it. So with that, when we first started the quarantine, like I said, like everybody's around and I suffer from anxiety. So it became one of those things where I've never liked cabin. I suffer from cabin fever. So like you said, just like I like going out. Like there would be times where like I would be stuck in the house for like 2 days and I just have to get out of the house to go to the store just to say I was out and come back home. And for everything to be shut down and for us to like me and my family to be on top of each other, it was like a lot for me where it was just like, okay, I'm not the binge watching type of person. Like what do I have to do to like get over there? So like I'm trying to cope as best as I can, but like you said, my vices are shut down as well. Then on right after that, like a month into the quarantine, my mom passed from COVID. And like Charlie touched on, I live in New Jersey and my most of my family is in New York. So with everything shut down, first she went into the hospital and it was like I can't go up there to see her or whatnot. And because of like how her health is, she had like underlying problems with breathing. Before that, couldn't speak to her because it was like it was a big deal like to call her on the phone because they don't want her talking too much, whatnot. So to go from somebody telling me, oh, your mom just went in the hospital and she has COVID to your mom passed. And now there's no funeral because everything is shut down and whatnot. And I can't be with my other family members or friends of the family to grieve because no one could travel. So that weighed a lot on like me and my family. And then while still dealing with that, you fast forward a couple of months, I get COVID. And then that becomes like a scary thing because I got COVID right before Christmas. So now I'm literally in my house, quarantining from my family during like the biggest holiday of the year. So it became a deal where it was like, I truly feel alone here because I can't go, like, kids are downstairs, my daughter is making cookies, and I can't go downstairs and whatnot. And like if they come to say something to me or they come to just check on me, they have to wear a mask in their own house because of me. So now I'm like super worried and like I kept telling my wife like my biggest fear like I would have been wrecked if anybody in this house tested positive after me because I would feel like it was my fault. So it just became one of those things where it was a mental health test beyond belief where like you said, now I look at things differently where I look at these people that are arguing that they don't have to wear a mask or oh it's all a front by the government to do whatever. And I'm like, no, do you actually know somebody that you could talk to that this is really affected? Like because you need to see the face of this pandemic to actually understand it. And until you do that, you're not gonna get it. You're just gonna play it off or whatever, because like there's tons of people you see online daily now that have called it a farce and whatnot, and then fast forward and then they catch it and their tone totally changes. Or they lose somebody close to them to it and their tone is totally changed. And that's the reality that everybody needs to have about it, rather than, oh, it's just something on TV. It hasn't affected me yet, so I could just live my life the way, like normal. There's no more normal, like Charlie said.
It's frustrating that people don't have the empathy to just understand the seriousness of the situation before it actually affects them too.
And it's, for me, I get a little bit more hung up on not just like the initial, after we've had this, not this one, but whatever conversation I'm having with someone, still see the, and I think that like we're allowed to fight everything that, you know, all the facts and information that this is a hoax. You're allowed to think that, but is it really that hard of a concept or an action to put a mask on for somebody else's peace of mind? Like, so if it's not real to me, I don't think this. So I'm not gonna wear it. But what does a person get out of that? And like you were saying, like seeing people that don't take it seriously, how that affects the mental health. That's a real thing, because it's like, regardless of how you feel about it, the literal very least you can do is wear a mask. like, and
It's not the hardest thing.
right.
You know?
And
Exactly.
you can get them for free in so many different places. You know, like one of the things that I saw, and I love the engineer started selling masks. So many people shipping them. Mother-in-law sent out like like every day or something. You know, like, I'm pretty sure as much as they'll probably give you one, especially like if you don't have one, can't afford one. I'm like, bro, here, you need a mask to do your part. Since we're since we're on the topic of how do you guys feel personally, and then I'll start. And so for a for a while, right? Like when it first happened, I'm not gonna get COVID, so I'm good. Nobody in my house, so we're good. Granted, my wife and nothing was required. It was recommended, not required. I'm wearing a mask. I don't be around. No ways. I'm home and I'm at work. That's it. And then as time goes on, they started requiring it, because I don't know how it is like where you are, like down there. When they started like enforcing the mandate, that really just putting signs up that said you had to wear it, but didn't really. So I would walk to the store and I have to wear it. So I got my mask on. Once I get in there and I see 10, 15 people without it, like, man, I'm taking my mask off. Like, I want to breathe in this place. And it was like a month or two, maybe, where I think it just hit. I'm not wearing a mask. Right? Like, and like, granted, that's what everybody's been saying, but then it hit me. It's, I don't, regardless of how I feel about this, if this gives Dom peace of mind when I'm passing him, why wouldn't I do that? Especially if I'm supposed to be that I claim to be, or this moral, decent person that I would like to be. You know what I mean? Like, why would I not do that? It cost me nothing. My job was handled. Most of the stuff, they're like, bro, got a mask? Come tell us. We'll give you one. Because it's mine. Wear a mask. And if I'm being completely honest, one of the biggest reasons why I wasn't wearing it was because I knew exactly how to them. And that was, you know, like one of those people who gullible, believes everything. And I was like, I hear nothing but nothing anybody says. I'm not wearing no mask. I'm like, hold on. I'm out here trying to show these people that I don't feel this way, and I'm neglecting these. So no matter what you do, everybody's going to, why not just benefit all? And like, what if the conversation were pandemic? I don't know. Are the people wearing the mask? Because I know I wasn't, and I wonder how much I not wearing the mask helped this last long, or if it did. I don't know, and never know. But I think that's the big kind of like they're indicative of. But how do you guys feel about it?
Well, I started wearing a mask in February, and when it first tasted in Virginia, my family started wearing a mask. I got sneered at, I got bad at, I got called a sheep, like all sorts of things. But
that's why I didn't wear it at first.
Yeah, but I kept wearing it because I was like, I looked at countries, China, South Korea, Japan, that they wear masks and they've always worn masks. You know, this is a new thing. If you're sick, you wear a mask to protect the people around you, and their cases were down. I'm like, okay, wearing a mask is a good idea. And it frustrates me that you hear people who will say, like, well, look, we're still in the pandemic. Clearly, masks don't work. And you see them, they're wearing a mask like this, or they're wearing a neck gaiter, you know, which doesn't work, or, you know, they're just not wearing the mask, period. I was in Target the other day doing my weekly shopping, and there was a woman with her mask around her chin. I was like, oh, thank goodness you're keeping us safe from your chin. Like, thank goodness. But masks, the debate of does a mask work is silly, because if masks didn't work, doctors and nurses would not be wearing masks. Like, they have always worn masks. When you perform a surgery, you wear a mask to help prevent any sort of infection or spreading of germs. It's proven that masks are effective when worn correctly. You know, if you're not wearing the correct mask, if your nose is out, obviously that's not going to help. And I genuinely think we would be in a much better spot if people did wear masks. And I know a lot of people will cite like Florida and be like, well, Florida didn't have as many cases as, say, California, and California had a mask mandate. It's like true, but Florida's also, people tend to hang outside, or like New York. You know, they'll say New York had such a worse COVID outbreak than Florida, but people are inside in New York because it got cold. You know, people are generally outside in Florida, so it is a little bit harder to spread COVID. But just the debate of do masks work really, really, really frustrates me.
Yeah.
Because, like you said, it's a matter of you're protecting someone else. You're not wearing a mask to keep you safe. You're wearing a mask so that if you have COVID, you're not going to harm someone else.
That's the point of a mask. That's what was explained to me, like in the beginning when they first started talking about it, was you don't really wear the mask to protect you from the virus. You wear the mask to protect others from what you have. And if you're wearing a mask and they're wearing a mask, then you drastically restrict like the possibility of either one of you, or however many people are around, contracting anything. So with that, like I went out and I started wearing my mask, and my job makes us wear masks and whatnot. And like Charlie said, here in Jersey, there's signs in every store where it's a state law or mandate that you have to wear a mask or whatnot. But the funny instance is, to show how instinct is, that this still isn't normal. There have been two times where I've like went to go run into a store and buy something, like, and one time was into the supermarket and one time was like into a pharmacy, and hopped out of the car because it was going to be a quick jump in, jump out, and totally forgot to wear my mask. And I walk into the store and like the sign is bold blazing on the door, red, and totally didn't realize it. Started shopping, and in both occurrences, it was me approaching a customer who looked at me like I was crazy and then quickly scurried away that I realized, what's wrong with, oh, wait a minute. I don't have my mask on. So I quickly like put my shirt up over my face and quickly went and finished my shopping and ran back to the car and hoped for the best. But where I think things are failing is no one said anything to me. I passed employees in the store and no one said anything to me. So like we're talking about, like you have to make it like a true mandate where when I passed that employee in like the supermarket and they noticed that I wasn't wearing a mask, they should have said something to me. And so forth. And then what they did at my job that Jess was talking about also is they stopped the work. Now we have signs at the door where it no longer says face, you have to wear a face covering. It says you have to wear a mask, and it has a picture of the masks that are allowed, because the neck gaiter isn't allowed, or like just wrapping a bandana around your face isn't a mask. But when I step outside of work and I'm in the general public, it's amazing how I still see that. Like I still see, like I literally saw a woman a few weeks ago. She had a child's t-shirt tied around her face. And I'm like, are you serious? You really think this is gonna work? Like if you forgot your mask or you didn't have a mask, like Charlie said, ask them at the door, because a lot of stores have like disposable ones that they can hand out, or just hold off doing. It's not really that important to be in here risking your health or somebody else's health just to get a soda.
I had to watch someone in the store the other day, now, recently, like 2 weeks ago, who was wearing their mask below their nose, kind of reared their head back to sneeze, pulled the mask down and sneezed. I lost. I just left the store because I couldn't deal with it.
I've seen that. I've seen a guy standing in front. It was funny. He's standing in front of the CVS nearby where they were doing the COVID testing, have a coughing fit and drop his mask just so he could cough. And like he's standing there and like he's standing next to like the line of cars where people are waiting to go get themselves tested. And I'm like, I don't know what this is called in life. It's not an oxymoron. It's not an oxymoron or a double negative, but I don't know what.
It's, and the shame of it is at the very beginning of this all, COVID and mask wearing got so politicized that it's almost impossible now to actually get people to wear masks. Because if you wear a mask, like I don't know how many times someone has been like, "Oh, you're a Biden supporter because I was wearing a mask." Like, it's just ridiculous.
Yeah, like that's crazy, because like this shouldn't be as like we're so divisive now that they bring it to a situation where we all should just be listening. And it's not stating anything about like your political party. It's not stating anything about your race. It's saving lives.
Yeah.
So why in any way are you going to argue that point? It makes no absolute sense.
I think a lot of people it's so funny that you Dodd. I thought of a question, wasn't a part of the outline, and that's pretty much what it was. It's like, how you guys feel like politics has impacted one of the things, for better or for worse, personally, better is we've under this last administration, a lot of the presidency itself was politicized, right? Like, and everything has become like ultra politicized and it's like you can't make a about it being I'm Republican or Democrat, no matter what it is. So it's like, how do you feel like that's impacted mass quarantine? If say, and I don't know, maybe it's been the same thing Hillary won. Let's say go back 10 years when I had administration from like everything got tweeted as politicized. I think that COVID comes and we just mask up all across America. We're supposed to do, or is it still something? No, you're a sheep if you're a mask. Like
I think there'd still be people. There's always idiots. Yeah, you can't. No matter what government we have, there's always going to be stupid people. But I think it wouldn't have been as bad because I mean the bottom line is Trump went on national TV and said COVID's not a big deal. It's no worse than the flu. You're wearing a mask. You're an idiot, and he kept that up throughout the entire year. So a lot of his supporters jumped on that and said, I'm not wearing a mask because my president says it's stupid and it's not real. I remember at the very beginning, I think it was the governor of Florida. The only point when he started taking it seriously was when he went on an interview and said, well, I saw Trump looking really concerned. So that's when I knew that COVID was real. It's like you should have known COVID was real when a scientist told you that it's real. And I do believe we'd be in a better spot. And like I said, there will always be idiots who will be like, wearing a mask is against my rights.
I had a
It would have been a little better.
I didn't mean to. But no, so there was this Trump supporter, and we're related. We came together frequently, and we talked smack back and forth. One of the things that he said to me as an insult, like, "You probably wear your mask when you go to the stores, don't you?" And like I forgot all about it. Toward that was an insult, and
Terrible.
so crazy because like one of the things too, as part of the politicized. Sounded good. Okay.
It
Well,
sounds great.
part of it, for me, with the whole, I remember this status. And he was like, wear your mask, people. Like, bro, you're not about to get like I'm not about to be black walking in some store wearing a mask. Like that sounds like a recipe for disaster. Why would I do that? I don't know if y'all had any of that. Like,
That's how it was starting off. Just because of how the civil has been, I think we were really coming up out of Arbery, or like coming right into the whole thing around the time. So that was a big sentiment, at least to me. I was like, I'm like, damn, don't like if I don't wear my mask, I might get someone might yell at me because I'm black and I'm not following the law. If I do wear my mask here, then someone might think I'm trying to rob the place. Like, what do I do? See, that was definitely a part of it, and I think that kind of goes where we are in our country. How some race can like split us up into sides, and now this side cares about black people in general, and this side thinks portion, but also listen. Not a big deal about it. I really feel like if it was 10 years, probably be fine now.
Yeah.
Like you said, Jack. Yeah, there's always gonna be for the tinfoil.
don't call him idiot.
Yes, they're always going to exist, but I really think that time that we country unfortunately politics. But we can pretty much blame.
Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah, which
because
is, it really should just be a matter of you wear a mask, you're an empathetic person, and you want to keep other people alive. If you refuse to wear a mask, you don't mind if people die. Like that's just the bottom line of what's going on right now.
yeah.
Have you like?
Yeah, you was say you good, Damien. Go ahead.
No, what the thought that popped into my head is about the divisiveness and how things could probably be a lot better. Is if you look back in the past, because like I'm an old head, I'm approaching like 47, so I've seen a couple of things. And if you look back and you look at how we've approached things united, they've been nipped in the bud. But when you put like a twist on it or a different narrative on it, then you start getting these naysayers and these conspiracy people who start to tear down any truth or anything that gets said about it, and then that sort of prolongs like the effects of what we're trying to get rid of. Because the first thing that really pops into my mind with us talking about this subject is I remember way back when I was like in third, fourth grade, when AIDS first popped up. It was listed as the gay disease. And yeah, they noted to everybody that like, oh yeah, condoms can stop it and blah, blah, blah. But it always had this stigma of being the gay disease. So of course you got heterosexual people running around like, I ain't gay, I don't need to wear a condom, blah, 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 whatever. Then it blows up. Then it became a concern. Then all the research and everything goes towards it. So when you have the president of the United States downplaying something because supposedly he doesn't want to scare anybody, and he has these millions and millions of supporters, now you have technically, to me, millions and millions of people who can spread it, because now they're anti-mask and they're anti-this and they're anti-getting tested or whatever. Oh, young people can't catch it. That's a lie. Or whatever. Like it's bad to say, but like I sat back wanting like his followers to listen to him when he said the thing about when he said, "Oh yeah, bleach kills it." Or Lysol. Then I'm like, oh yeah, go ahead. I've heard that one before. Go right ahead, inject yourselves. You'll be doing us a favor. I'll be over here in my mask watching you do that. But united, if we were united like other countries before, like around the same time, we definitely would have nipped it in the bud. But because of the politics of everything, you've got these people out here that just want to go against the grain, and they don't see that they're still the problem.
Wow, because like as we're having this, that sent this article, and I clearly didn't get a chance to read it because we're in it conversation, but it's talking about, I guess, the governor of Texas lifted the mask mandate and is allowing businesses to open at 100% capacity, and it's like, all right. So so one of the things that I've found most interesting watching the news or listening, or even with certain people, like white people, a lot of people talk about like it's just behind us. Like we're not dealing with it anymore. Nobody's dying daily. Aren't still crazy because I understand with COVID it's just bad, like, and it's like that's the case for everybody, and that's the same with everything. Like there's people who get cancer and die in 3 months and live for another 50 years, and just because this person's experience with this sickness wasn't fatal or wasn't as detrimental. Doesn't mean that we should collectively downplay it. I think that's the thing. I remember they were talking about, like, I'm gonna move away from this, talking about the elections being rigged and not cheating. I forget the word that they use, but you know what I'm saying. Elections being rigged, and it's like, well, it's like 2% or 1% or something like that. And it's like, well, that's too much. We need to investigate. And then when they say so arrogantly, COVID deaths is less than 2. Well, the cheating thing that you're talking about is less. Why is this okay and that's not? Like, we're very pick and choose. I'll come up with a word to sum that up. Pick and choose these. But did you share your feelings on the mask? 'Cause I know I talked a lot, and then Justin talked a lot, and Damian talked a little bit, and Justin talked some more, and I talked. Did you know?
I did it, but I mean, the sentiment is basically. I've always wanted, like I said before, I'm high, so it was weird at first, but high risk. So if something happens, it's not worth it. Like that's my takeaway. It's not. I like to apply Pascal's. Basically, generally, you Christians say either God is real or he's real, and you live your life form. Heaven, if you not live your life form, happens. If you don't live your life form, and he's then you're going to hell. If you don't live your life form, and he's not real, and that happens. The best case scenario is just to live life form. That's what Pascal basically. I apply that with them. If this thing is real, and I don't wear my mask, and that's a horrible result. Not real, and I don't wear my mask, happens.
Correct.
If it's real and I do wear my mask, I'm safe. Not real and I do wear my mask, I'm safe. So no matter how you look at it, it's like wear your mask. Like if you just wear it, then we're fine. Government
Control of everything.
test new software to recognize by just eyes. If we don't like stare with our phones in our
Right.
face like
The
this all day,
laptops.
and your cameras are on us 24/7, but now it's just crazy to me. I'm just like we're just
My favorite is when this whole pandemic move us all over to a one world.
yeah.
That's why do you think they're having a coin shortage?
Well, and the vaccine's the mark of the beast.
They wanna track our payments, and it's like,
We're getting that just to keep hearing the phrase. Next
yeah,
question.
right. Vaccine. Okay, go ahead, Tom. I'm sorry.
So, talking about that, what do you think of the answer? Like this is
I think it's a combination of all health and safety measures. I think people need to continue to wear their masks, social distance as much as possible, and get the vaccine. I've done a lot. So I've gotten all of my family that are eligible their appointments. Most of them have had their first shot. And I've also done a lot of outreach for my family in New York City to talk to some of their Black friends, Black family, to reassure them about the vaccine because fair enough, there's a lot of worry and distrust with Black Americans in getting the vaccine, and I understand that. So I've done a lot to try to help people understand like the safety measures behind it and why everyone should get the vaccine. But that's also another thing that is worrisome because I do worry that not enough people will get it to help us get out of this.
yeah. That's kind of the anytime medical first thing our history of people with medical with basically just with America in general, but with the medical field, so is actually trust this. Top of that, now I'm sick with these two other diseases. Like play it all in it. Like how is that going to affect me? Work. So like you said, it's a ground of that a lot of us have. Um, and on top of it, I also feel like I think it kind of sucks that it had to come when you look at countries. Um, but country in Europe, I can't remember the name of it. Was it Sweden? But countries that have at least for a time completely eradicated it just by following guidelines. And of course, it came back, and some countries started leaving, catching it, coming home. But people sat and followed the guidelines and completely got rid of it. And it's like, wonder if we would have even needed to get to this point if we all just would have listened. So that now that we're at this point, still aren't listening. Now I'm like, well, if they didn't listen to this mandate, thought that the government was using it in information lives, are they going to go and get this vaccine thinking that the government is microchips into
Yeah.
anything else? So now I'm like, I don't know if it's even going to get around enough.
It's a little unreal to actually have people legitimately telling me like they're going to microchip you with the vaccine. I'm like, how small of a microchip is this? Like, how are they managing this? And then of course there's the people who I've had someone tell me I'm going to be because as soon as I'm eligible, I'm getting it. I've done all the research. It's safe. It's not rushed. It's effective. That is something I want everyone to understand that watches. This vaccine was not rushed. It is safe. It has gone through all the same efficacy, background checks, everything. It's fine. Get the vaccine. But there are a lot of people. There are people who told me like, "Oh, you're getting the vaccine. That's the mark of the beast. You're going to get microchip. This and that and that." I'm like, oh, please just go get it.
I think I'll go last during my vaccine.
Be reassured that the vaccine is safe solely because the first people to get it were our government. If it wasn't safe, they wouldn't have gotten it first. They rushed for it. Trump secretly went and got it. I just read that recently.
Yeah, I just read that too. I think, yeah, that is a good point.
If Trump got it, then I trust it.
It is a good
My
point.
parents went and got vaccinated recently.
I
Oh
no, I said, Damien, you go ahead and go. I'm gonna go last.
No, go ahead.
Oh yeah. I believe that it will work, but you guys have mentioned, and I saw an interview with Dr. Fauci. It's not the cure-all. So the understanding has to be you get vaccinated, and then we still do these other things to save us. So I feel like we're gonna get two sides of mayhem where we're already seeing it, where I've seen some accounts where people have been vaccinated and been walking around without a mask thinking they just can't catch it. And then the other side is that you're going to get these people who just aren't going to get vaccinated because they feel that, oh, if I get vaccinated, I should be able to not wear my mask and whatnot. And so what's the point of, and I've heard people say this, what's the point of getting the shot and then still having to wear the mask and still having to stay 6 feet apart and whatnot? It's because that's what's needed to eradicate corona. Why is it so hard to just do these things, and then when it's gone you have questions of okay, why am I still wearing the mask and so forth?
I feel like that's why, because as I listen at really all of us speak, there's a lot of agreement, and throughout all of the conversations, empathy do so much for eradicating. And there are people that they aren't doing masks. Question becomes why? When you're resigned to your little bubble, you're around people about this, then like that you tend to adopt those. I think that if they weren't around the people, probably would wear a mask for the safety of others, but they're around people. Tell them like only clowns wear it. Look stupid wearing it. So it's just so wild, man, because I think we're a lot further along. But I'm not skating around me sharing my opinion on the vaccine. I don't think that it's the. How do I, what was the question? How do I feel about the vaccine?
Yeah, how do you feel?
Yeah, okay. I feel like an anti-vaxxer, but that's the kind of person that I am in all things. You feel it, you do it, right? Like me, I don't trust government. I don't doctors. I just that's me personally. Like if I were to go to the doctor right now, it would have to be something. But I don't believe that my best interest is at heart when decisions are. Therefore, I tend to stay in my own vaccine. More power to everyone. I haven't looked too much. I don't. I'm not to upset anybody. Like, please don't attack me. Please, I'm gonna still wear my mask and all that.
Just be ready for you.
I don't think that Bill Gates is trying to microchip me through the vaccine. Like, that's not it at all. My experience, doctors led me before Jesse attacked me on live. Like, all right, Jesus, we thank you. No, she's like, yo, honestly, bro, I don't know about you.
It's it's
It's understandable.
it's
I get it.
understandable. My experience comes out of I'm coming out of realizing, although a lot of people but then see when I this vision like oh my gosh I'm blind I sort of like oh wait sorry and I'm like you're a doctor
What?
how did you I got that hospital and before it and it's understandable that trust I think not everybody is out to get us, but that mistrust is it's understandable.
But remember, there are people that cannot get the vaccine because of allergies, because they're severely ill. So by you getting the vaccine, it's being
I'm
shown
allergic.
This
Oh.
guy.
you're not. No, you're not. It does help prevent spread. So just something to keep in mind.
And that's a good point.
That is a good point, and I will keep it in mind. And see, that's the thing about me. It's like I'm not one of those people who is so stuck in what I believe and how I believe that I'm unwilling to consider new information. And I'm also not one of those stuck in my own beliefs, but that I'm unwilling to share information that I don't necessarily agree with. Like I don't necessarily like I said, I don't plan on getting, but I'm not going to tell other people. Everybody has information. Like if you were to message me after this, here's a whole bunch of.
Oh, I
she's-
plan
she's
on
about
it.
to-
Yeah, no, I know she's going to. Like I'll read it. I will read it all, and I'll probably share it with people. Honestly, that like I live my life like this. I'm open to the possibility all the time. There's new information. I believe this. It's never going to change. Got the facts. Show me the facts. Show me the car facts. You know what I mean? Okay, so as we wind down, we're going to do our final thoughts, where everybody gets 1 minute to share what they all of our viewers. Jesse, yours cannot be that you want me to get the vaccine. Okay, you got to come up with something different. So final. Right, 'cause, like he can still in mind. My final thought. Take the politics out of your as it pertains to COVID, but also everything. Or that we do that, better off, or we'll engage with other people, or that we're considering other people in our actions. It's going to help us out. Yeah, move politics. Every decision. Hey, you know, got a timer on me now.
Okay, Jesse and Damien, when you guys want to go?
Jess?
Me? Okay. Final thoughts. If you are suffering from any sort of mental health issues, mental illness right now, seek help. It's not an easy time. Reach out to people who can help you, and wear your mask and get your vaccine. If anyone has anyone in their life that is questioning the vaccine, I say reach out to me and I will give you any necessary information you need to explain the science behind it.
I can assure you, she will give you much more information.
My final thought is humanity is key. So always keep that in mind when going forward. Like, how am I gonna help humanity? Like, there's too much of the me, I going on today. And as we've seen, like, especially since I want to say it started like just about 4 or 5 years ago with you know who, this is where we wound up. So if we consider others using empathy, like Charlie's been saying, and considering humanity, everything would be a lot better.
Real quick, Dom, before you go, did you say you know who? Like this was Lord Voldemort?
We know.
I was every time somebody says you know who, I think of Lord Voldemort. And
He
certain
who,
people
he
ain't
who shall
worthy.
not be named.
Certain people ain't worthy to have the same moniker.
Yeah.
Proportion. You know what, Dom? Go. Come on, I wasn't saying. So Voldemort's that dude.
Me, I just probably most of us have top of losses that
Just to be everyone. Okay.
No.
So on that note,
Well, really quickly, and
Okay.
it's something slight. It ain't got nothing to do with COVID for real, except for the fact that it largely forgotten because of COVID. Oh, Kobe Bryant died last. Like, and
Oh,
bro, I didn't mean to get. I apologize.
yeah,
I didn't mean to get. But it's
I
just
tried to
like
close it up.
how many things have happened that COVID just like doesn't even give you time to process. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
this year it's been
Last
insane.
year,
Like, well, yeah.
Yeah.
Like,
the year happened. COVID didn't let you process.
it didn't. Like, the Black Lives Matter movement, I think, could have been so much more if we weren't also going through a global pandemic at the same time. Now, I do think that everything that happened is what helped bring that to the forefront. But yeah, COVID really took over and pushed, like Chadwick Boseman dying, like that kind of was just brushed aside, and that was so tragic.
That's my
Y'all
fault.
bringing up Chadwick.
That's
Talk
my
about Kobe.
That's my fault. That's my fault. Dom is going to close the system prayer. We'll continue this in the post show.
She right though, Jay. Right. I mean, and I'm like, I might get him. God, I'm voices that and it just and thank you guys. I missed so then, yeah, on that note,